Ladies coming to the scene with the knowledge, that's it. Spitting nothing but the facts and it's about to be lit. See, yeah. Yeah. Let me hear you say, yeah. Yeah. Sit back and take a listen, cause the teaching and course, they share a passion and a talent, a human resource. See, yeah. Yeah. Let me hear you say, yeah. Yeah. Empowering ladies with the voice, and it's about to be fire. Did I forget to mention that they're both from GI? Let me hear you say yeah. Yeah. Let me hear you say yeah. Yeah.
What's up, cousin?
Man, nothing much. What's going on with you, cousin?
It's Thursday. It's the end of the week. I'm happy. It's been a rough week. What about yours? It's been busy.
It's been really busy, but I'm fortunate. I'm working this new schedule, so I'm off every other Friday. So tomorrow I'm off. So it's my Friday.
I'm jelly. I like, yeah.
It's a really dope schedule. I like it.
Right, throw us in our face. So, well, we are here. We were here on Tuesday night just to kind of give them a dose of what tonight would be like and what we would be talking about, which is, I don't know, would you consider it a serious topic?
It can be. It can be. I think we have some serious things to talk about, but it's kind of a light and fun as well.
Yeah, we'll be light and fun. We're talking about sexy versus sexual. Sexy versus sexual. So before we dig into our topic, we do have to put out our disclaimer. We got to give some ground rules. Missy's going to introduce our guest. We have a brother in the house tonight who is going to add to the conversation. But first, we got to do our due diligence and say that we don't offer legal advice. That's not what we're here to do. We are HR practitioners by trade, by education. That's what we do for a living. But we do not ourselves offer legal advice. We are not lawyers. We cannot represent you in a court of law. So don't take our word for it. This is for your entertainment purposes only. Okay. So the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed here on Her Voice are solely our own. We don't represent the opinions of any entities whatsoever, which we have been affiliated with, that we are now affiliated with, or any affiliations in the future. So we don't represent them. These are our own expressed views. This is at our own risk. So we need y'all to remember that. Okay. Before y'all inbox asking us for legal HR advice. If anything besides your resume, I can't do it. Okay.
No, all right, and amen. I'm gonna tell you to read your policy guide. Where's your hand?
Read your policy. What the policy says. Okay, but we do got some ground rules because tonight's topic we invite guests on. Sometimes we got to lay a little of the groundwork. But before I lay the groundwork, if you are here with us and you're checking in, we need you to put a hey cousin in the chat. We want to see who's in, who's checking in, who's watching, who's viewing, who's with us on tonight. So put a hey cousin in the chat if you are with us and you are checking in with us on this evening. So the ground rules, we're going to remain respectful tonight. Okay. We're going to value one another's differences. Yep. We're going to play nice in the playpen. We're not going to make any assumptions or generalization. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes we have a habit in our language to make gross generalizations. So we won't attempt to do that on this evening.
Listen to understand.
Yeah. Yes. We're going to refrain from foul language, we hope.
Excessive.
Because my mama may be watching. We're not going to bash. We're not gender bashing. This is not a men versus women type of conversation. This is a conversation for us to discuss, dialogue, learn from one another, hear each other's perspective.
Right.
We're not going to say the N word.
Never. Never, not ever. I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all we're gonna say about that. And that's it. That's all we have. Yeah. We just we just supposed to have some real conversation, some grown folks conversation tonight.
Right. So Nikki and I were fortunate enough to have a conversation with Christopher Rudder, who is the founder and creator of Cultured Unplugged. And we found some synergy in that discussion and decided we should do a collaboration or maybe two. So we are excited to welcome Chris, this jack of all trades. He is a guru in the business and finance industry, working with small businesses. He has his own business, Culture Unplugged, where he has his podcast, his YouTube channel. If you caught him on my page, he is a personal chef as well, specializing in intimate gatherings. Now taking orders for Valentine's Day. He is he's helping my son as a personal stylist, and he is a mentor for those coming behind him, the youth. So we're excited to bring Chris to the stage, to have him with us in Cultured Unplugged, and ready to start this discussion. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, so from here on out, your name will probably not be Chris. We probably gonna call you Cousin, because when you come on her voice, everybody's a cousin to us. Okay,
Cousin Chris.
Cousin Chris. Cousin Chris.
See, some people usually call me the uncle, so that's really just fine. I could be the cousin for the night.
Okay. You'll be our cousin for tonight. Yes.
Yeah.
So tonight's topic: sexy versus sexual.
Yeah.
Absolutely. First, I just want to say thank you for having me on the show with you all. It is definitely an honor and a pleasure to be with you, Nikki and Missy. So it's just so much to unpack with this conversation, because I think about experiences as a man coming into especially a Black man, working in corporate America, working in places that are, very high esteem, professionals, super professional, everyone's, kind of like, the only type of time you had to kind of let your hair down was just usually at a happy hour spot. But that's when a lot of those conversations get cultivated and discussed as far as what we deem as attractive and what we see during our normal Monday through Friday 8 to 5. Because you got to think about it. We're with these people. And when I say these people, I'm talking about the people that we work with. We're there with them most of our day, with the exception to the weekend, right? It's without being on our own family. So naturally, you get comfortable. And I'm talking to HR professionals. You get comfortable to say things that you don't normally would say. So especially when it comes down to functions where, it's a conference, it's a company paid event. Right. And then
y'all letting loose a little bit after the conference
bar, and especially around this time, as I've always seen it, at the holiday gatherings, the holiday galas that the company paid thousands of dollars for, and you're just gonna be yourself. So where I have seen the trouble come into place is that you've worked so much, alongside that person, sometimes through the good days, the bad days, you'd kind of develop a sort of an attraction and a keen for looking at someone that you may have always kind of eyed on, right? And that other person may not be given any kind of signal based on how that person dresses. So that person, when I say that person, it could be for me, since this is in my case, since I'm the man here. If you see a woman that's dressing really attractive, is she giving out that signal that she wants to be approached in a way that is suggestive? In a way that is she, saying, hey, I want everybody to notice how I look, how I feel. I'm sexual. I'm that kind of aura.
So she's giving off something.
She's giving off something.
Yeah.
She's giving off something.
So let me ask a question. Let me backtrack just a second, because you said something interesting. You said, so you've been in situations where you've been.
Well, he has a hypothetical.
A hypothetical.
Yes.
Hypothetically. Okay. Hypothetically speaking, I'm put that on the ground rules. Hypothetically. So you hypothetically have been in situations where you are discussing amongst your colleagues. Okay.
Yes.
Both men and women have conversations. Who they find attractive in the career professional circle?
So I don't want to be the one to spill the beans, but I gotta be the guy to spill the beans, because guys, we do it. And I don't know how women do in their circles, but men typically at the office, not all settings, but in some cases, I have been in situations where the conversation come up and say, "Oh man, so and so is good looking. You see her, how she doing? You see what she got on? You see, man." I said, if I were married, I didn't heard that. I've heard that, and so it's become it not only in just one particular type of job. I've had it in several different types of careers, and so I've seen it as something that's a universal thing where guys kind of water cool it, so to speak, right? And so we kind of water cool it, and we're literally talking about, oh man, so and so got looking like that. Who would you talk to? Who would you smash? Which is seriously like, so that's an eye-opening thing, but it's really true, and based on who we find attractive, because you got to understand too, guys, we are choosers by sight. We are attractive by what we see. Okay, it's almost like you go to a restaurant, you get something to eat. When you see that plate of food coming, your eyes get big, right? So your eyes get big and your stomach gets bigger. In this case, eyes get big, and what else? It just becomes something else that just kind of draws us in a little bit. And that's
I
where
would say that women have those same thoughts.
Okay.
Just not in an overt way, an overtly obvious way, right? When we see an attractive man in the office, we don't group up. We just gonna think about it. And when we flirt, we just keep eye contact real long. Like that's all. That's all we're doing. We're not doing all that extra stuff. But in our own way, of course, we have those thoughts. We just don't act on them in the same way. And, just kind of going back to the topic, just because someone is attractive, sexy, are they giving off the energy, as you said, Chris, that they want to be approached? Does being sexy mean you are sexual? Because when we look at us as people of color, we are a sexy people. We're a people who other popular cultures emulate. They emulate our body shape and our skin tone and our features. Exactly. And that is done intentionally to do what? To look more attractive, right? And so when you are in these spaces, whether it is at work or at your, business event or networking event, and you show up as you, the sexy you, right? Are you giving off an energy that says it is inviting, right, in a way that is sexual? And how do you counter that? Because women, I can tell you, probably most of our audience, I'm speaking for women right now, have been in situations where they have been incorrectly categorized as someone who is open to maybe some sort of illicit affair or open to some sort of promiscuous situation in the workplace, right? Possibly accused of having a workplace affair for some sort of opportunity. Or even in my case, I've been accused of having a workplace affair and then providing someone an opportunity. And it was not refuted by that person who knew that was not the truth. So, and that's another form of sexual harassment. But when you show up in the workplace and you can't do anything but be sexual, sexy, right? But not trying to be sexual. You see it in these memes where they show teachers who are shapely and young lady has on a pencil skirt. And it'll say, would you let your child go to this class? Well, what else is she supposed to do with that? All that ass?
Right. All the men like, hell yeah, I'll let my son go.
It's just who you are. And so how do you show up in those spaces, and what do you do to counter that, to protect your career, your professional reputation? Because all that is on the line for men as well. When you come into a room and, women are looking, ooh, chocolate, ooh, tall, ooh, all those things. And we have to be careful. And that goes all the way. Like we could go way back with that. how careful you have to be as a person of color, because we get accused. We are not granted the privilege of being assumed innocent from an early age, early. Like the book White Fragility, they talk about the innocence of young Black men is out the window by the time they're 10.
Right.
10 years old.
Not before.
Yeah. And so we're already assumed to be whatever thoughts are in their mind. We're already assumed to be that, right? And so how do you show up in those spaces and do your best job and demonstrate that you've earned your position without being inappropriate?
So these are some things I was writing as you were speaking, and I think about a couple of things here. Treatment from leadership. So what kind of treatment are you receiving from those that not only are your counterparts, but your leadership team? Are they treating you with some type of favoritism? Are you recognizing certain types of signs or behaviors that seem to be a little bit more incentivized for you versus, the other counterparts? Behaviors. So what type of behavior is the person exhibiting? As are they truly being themselves, or are they showing some type of flirtatious type of behavior on the job? And sometimes people get those two different confused, being really friendly, really nice, right, so to speak. Others might take it and say, oh, well, is this person liking me in a certain kind of way? Some fellas don't have a hard time understanding the difference between those two.
I was just about to say, y'all be confused, right?
We confused, but hey, I mean,
y'all
for
be trying to figure it out.
For a guy who's 50 years old, who's not getting that kind of peace at home, and he's getting it from you, that's kind of that's tough.
Work husband.
Right. That's what they say. And so I think that I don't really know what the true answer is for you as women. I'm talking to women in the broad space. Okay. Women who especially have certain curves and those things like that. It's you really kind of get it from both angles. You can kind of get other women that really be upset by what you wear. Or you may have guys that are just, lusting after you while you're at the workplace, so you really can't function. So it's almost like you have to set a certain kind of tone while you're there. And you have to almost subliminally put it out there like, nah, I came here to work. I came here to be, you're going to respect me as this person in this position. And it's especially for women who are in those higher level leadership positions.
I have a question in that regard.
Okay.
So you don't be offended by this. So you're putting the onus on her to overcompensate and show that she's not there for that reason. So she has to show forth all of these extra overcompensated examples for you not to pursue her in that way. That's a hot spot question.
It's a very hot spot question. However, this is my thing. For guys are going to be guys regardless. I just also feel like it's a two-part thing. It's not just one party or the other. And I definitely believe that men have to come to the workplace with discipline and some level of professionalism.
Yana says she agrees. She tries her best to cover her curves in the workplace.
Yeah, I mean, but it's just, because you do the same. Okay, you would agree, and I'm sure for all the listeners watching as well, when you're going to a lot of women who go to the gym, they're very shapely. A lot of them wear something around their waist. They wear a shirt, a sweater, a jacket, whatever it is, because they don't want anyone to. They don't want to feel watched. You see what I'm saying? And they know it, and they know that it's the gym especially is one of those kind of places that. Sexual energy just can just happen. But it's one of those things. I only use that analogy because it's just one of those things. For those guys, I can't say, and it's a really messed up world because most guys in general should be just disciplined to just be able to see and pass. That's my whole motto behind it.
So I hear what you're saying, and it's also it's reality, but it's also very frustrating. It's almost infuriating, to be honest, because it's putting the onus on women to counter the thoughts the deviant thoughts of the opposite sex or the same sex or whomever. And you don't see, like, women are the only group, I believe, that have that type of pressure placed on them. You know, when you talk about members of the LGBTQA plus community, nobody's telling men to not wear gray sweatpants because they might, you know, be too attractive to another man. Nobody's doing that. And so to put the onus on a women to play down ourselves and our beings in order to compensate from unwanted attention from someone who it sounds like maybe can't control themselves, I think is just unrealistic and unfair.
Oh, it is. It's very unfair. I'm not gonna argue against that.
He handled that question. He's like, "Oh yeah."
There is a double standard. I will say. I mean, you brought up the whole gray sweatpants.
That's a good thought. Double standard.
Right. Yeah. It's a double standard. There is the whole gray sweatpants argument there too. You know, women are expecting to see something when men wear it, and if they don't, then he's gotta automatically have nothing there. So, you know, we can kind of go on, and that's kind of a messed up thing, because some women feel like, hey, I'm only gonna want to deal with guys with a certain type of, you know, extensive equipment there, and if he doesn't meet that, then it's a problem. So, you know, those are one of those things, but it is a double standard. I don't know what it is gonna take, to be honest with you, to change that culture, because this is a very sexualized generation. You have to understand that sex is everywhere, subliminal. It's in everything that you see.
It's in the music.
Yeah.
It's in the music.
It's in their everyday life. It's in social media.
Exactly.
It's in the commercials that they watch.
Right. Well, so, Chris, you made a point earlier where you said you were, and I don't want to misquote you, but you said you were afraid for women. And I say that I'm afraid for Black men.
Yeah.
I'm afraid for Black men who are put in a situation, because Black men are pursued very aggressively from an early age. I think I just transparently, like, I have two sons. My oldest son is 22. From the time he was in like second grade, little girls were like texting him about wanting to kiss on him and things like that. So it was alarming for me, because I'm like, why is young lady so aggressive? And when you think about historically, right, the perception of Black men being sexually aggressive, that narrative that has been painted from the beginning of time, from slavery to what's that one movie, the Birth of a Nation. You know, that narrative that has been painted for so long, to where now, again, Black men are not presumed to be innocent. And so if it's ever anyone else's word against a Black man, you know, it almost has to be like a George Floyd thing. Like, you have to have all the evidence. It almost has to be on tape in order to prove your innocence. And that is, for me, frightening for my Black men and especially for my young Black boys.
Yeah. In light of the current social climate, so we have the Me Too movement. We have, you know, we see every day how hard the media judges our Black men and what they go through. We've seen R. Kelly, we've seen Bill Cosby, some of our very prominent Black men who have you know, went down because of sexual deviant crimes. Do you think about those things? Does that instill any kind of thought for you? And I'm not accusing you of anything, but just to be conscious of certain women because of the whole climate that we're in. It's like a cancel culture. Everybody gets canceled, and you know, the Me Too movement and all of that. Do those things scare you as a Black man? Like, honestly, do you have some fear of what you see that happens in the media?
That's a great question. So the first thing that comes to mind is, I think about my listeners on my YouTube channel, and I know I've talked about it to young men. before, and the power of perception and when it comes out of public media can be very damaging.
Yep, that's true.
We know that in instances, where people have been wrongly accused. Just recently, a gentleman who was wrongly imprisoned for I think over 10 years over a supposed rape that he never committed.
Yep.
You've seen it happen. With the Central Park 5, I think it was, right?
Exonerated 5.
Exonerated 5.
Yep.
Thank you. So it's concerning because we have to be very careful on how we position ourselves in public and in the workplace, especially Black men. We're always seen to be this, the media painted at one point on TV back in the day. I'm talking about the 50s and 40s that there were these Black men that were just ravaging. They were just highly sexualized, aggressive, and and very scary, demeaning things.
That's been by design. They've been doing that to our Black men since slavery.
Caricatures that were just very, very alarming. So I have to kind of think about it for my generation, for those that I actually mentor, and my future kids. If I ever have a son of my own, and what I'd like to tell him is, first of all, be very mindful about the environment you're in, how you come across your actions, what you say, and how you say it, and just be mindful. I mean, there's certain things you can't protect everybody from. These are some things that are just gonna be, in certain instances, one person was here, person B was here, person A was there, and now because of a situation that's happened, we're gonna paint the label on on person A because of what happened to person B. If that makes sense. So we just have it's one of those things where I struggle with it because I'm like I don't like to see that happen. But I have to be recognized and say, just like I would tell my Black son about the police and what they can do to you.
Yes, it's the same conversation.
I have to prepare you the same way I would against false allegations or putting yourself in situations where you will be uncomfortable, because I can just speak from my experience. Making a joke at work that could potentially be seen as alarming or sexual related or whatever the case may be, and it has no intention of that, carries so much more weight against the person that is being charged to. And it's like you're in this uncomfortable situation where you're investigated. You're investigated, and a lot of times now, again, it's about this, what she says usually goes, and now they want to send you other stuff. So it's like you have to be very careful about what you say, how you move, what you do, even like down to the fact of handshake. I remember one time I reached out to handshake someone, and was like, so and so doesn't like handshakes, and may come across aggressive. I'm like, whoa, I can't even handshake.
I can imagine you would get that a lot as a Black man, and you're darker skin toned. It's just automatically taken as an aggressive.
Your presence, just your presence,
your presence.
This is what's so scary about this too, and I'm just going to slide this in here too. You may be. I'm just going to say the name Jamal. Jamal might be actually getting a promotion. Jamal might be getting a promotion to be in a senior level position. There's nobody related or nothing like that, like personally that I know like that. But I'm just giving us a situation that's I want you to kind of think about. But Shelly, for some reason, is jealous because another female likes Jamal, and she likes him too. So she comes up with this allegation that Jamal came to her in some type of aggressive way, and he has no understanding. It could have been something that was slight, like he bumped into her one day and he said, sorry, I don't mean, I'm coming out the mailroom. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, whatever. And she carried on. Oh, but now it's a whole nother thing. And so when you bring up situations, conversations like that, or scenarios like that, then you're automatically, as the man, demonized, because it seems like, oh, well, there's, you're trying to say that, women are not hurt, or you're trying to say that women are not abused or aggressive. These things don't happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, But it didn't happen to Jamal. Jamal would never come up. Jamal was not in that position of thinking to even do something like that. So we have to even be careful, like in the workplace, what are we saying to men, even when they're getting these trainings, to be careful of? Because a lot of times they're just going to show you, hey, what not to do, what you shouldn't say, and those things like that. But are they giving the understanding of, hey, is this truly what, abuse is? Is this person, really being affected?
How to recognize it. Really, truly how to recognize it.
Right.
We do want our audience members to chime in. So if you have a question for Brother Chris or a thought that you would like to share, a perspective, please put it in the chat and we will share your thought there, share your perspective, share your question if you have one for Brother Chris. I want to say this, like, where do you work where it's like all these fine, sexy people with nice bodies? Because I think I work with all the old fogies and we trying to just keep our bodies together. Like that's where I work. We don't get that kind of action in my workplace.
Can I just say the DMV is hot in general?
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
It is hot. It is hot.
That's what it is. I'm like,
well, let's just say
I'm out the game, but who be doing all this in the workplace?
There's certain workspaces like, hey, it happens at the call centers, believe it or not. The call centers, for some reason.
Oh, okay. I get it. I get it. Okay. So it's where I'm not being biased, but it's where a younger population of people.
Typically.
Okay. I got grays in my hair that's being covered up by the braids right now. And so I don't get all that kind of action.
Yeah. But you bring up a really great point about people of color being perceived as sex symbols from early on. Like back in the day, there are these stereotypes that we are. I hate to say like we're the standard, but.
I mean, we come with style. We come into the workplace with fashion, and
and just think about it. We got
a sense of pride.
I wonder if I read once about this. One author, she was talking about showing up in the workplace in like bright colors with bright like lipstick, and that being an issue. And I wonder if that contributes to the perception, right? Like, it's not toned down at all, right? It's like a loud kind of presence. But that's just who we are. We're colorful people. Melanin looks good in color. So
we gonna match, no
matter we're gonna come in correct.
Right. Yeah. Even if you work in, even you gonna match your tennis shoes, gonna match your shirt. Like we come in live and in color.
I look good in neon.
Right. Right.
People like to color block.
Right. It's the 90s. The 90s is back. We color blocking again.
Exactly. What do you, Nikki, you brought up R. Kelly, and I'm curious to know, and either one or both of you can answer this question, but when we look at the R. Kelly case and the victims, and I didn't mean to do that, but when we look at the R. Kelly case and the victims of R. Kelly, compared to the victims in the Epstein case, right? Mm-hmm. They're looked at completely differently.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious to know your perspective on that and why we in our culture seem to kind of lean on blaming the victims of R. Kelly instead of supporting the victims of R. Kelly.
We have certain heroes in our culture. Okay. And R. Kelly is one of those heroes for us when it comes down to music. Okay. Because we think our relationship with music from those that we care about, it's a long-term relationship. Some of these people were born into R. Kelly. Okay. Families created, relationships restored, people got married, down the aisle. So, when it comes down to those, we like to have we have certain strongholds because we have this feeling of security with that and security with those artists, and for them to be put in a light, we're gonna think about it as the same way when it comes down to police brutality. We're going to look at it as that person's being wronged, or that's just the system going against the grain on us one more time. And we have to come to the understanding that there are those that are going to do wrong, and we have to accept wrong for wrong, and be address it and keep it 100, because they are bad apples and bad characters in every culture, but especially in our own, and we have to be able to be hold them accountable, even though it hurts to know that these people, figures like even Bill Cosby, who was like a father to me, watching him on TV. I would hate to hear anybody else that are prominent that I would know that and respect, it comes to the media, and find out that there's something like that has happened. But we got to hold them accountable. We have a hard time holding our own accountable sometimes.
You're right. And Foxy Brown is coming forward with allegations about Jay-Z, and the culture is like,
wait a minute, I didn't hear that. What?
Yeah.
Come on now. That doesn't surprise me. I think that doesn't surprise me. That's what R. Kelly was gonna tell on. He was like, I'm taking y'all down. He was Nino Brown, and but I with the R. Kelly cases and the Bill Cosby versus the Epstein, I think we as a community, we just don't want to see our Black men get taken down in that way, whether or not they're guilty or not guilty. And I'm not saying yay nor R. Kelly, but we don't want to see our Black men in that light. We don't want to see our Black men tore down by the media. Right. And so it's very difficult for us to watch that, even though in the back of our minds we're saying, he probably went too far, or we know R. Kelly been pissing on kids since the early 90s, but we just don't want to see that, right? Because it's another example of white media or white people tearing down our Black men. So we don't want to see that.
Right.
Epstein, he was connected to money and power and politics. And if they didn't off him, he would have, told on so many people that was connected to him and his sex trafficking. And so it's the vast difference between us trying to protect our Black men, knowing it's true, but want to protect them. And then you have Epstein, who is just, the money and power he was connected to.
As two young women who grew up in the area around R. Kelly in the 90s, Nikki and I were both kind of like, we been knew he was guilty. You know what I mean? Like he was at my high school. I know. So that was not news for us, because we grew up like literally seeing him around at the basketball courts when we were teenagers.
Wait a minute, for real?
At the college campus?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I'm like, he was there. But I think that too, we are one of the few cultures who feel accountable for each other in a way where we don't want to see any, when the news comes on and something happens, you're like, oh, please don't let him be Black, right? Because we feel like, for right, wrong, or indifferent, we feel as though that's a reflection on us. Yeah. So we don't want any of us to be viewed in that light, because we view ourselves as a collective. And that's not, in large part, that's not how other cultures see each other. They see themselves very much individualistically, right? They're like, I represent me, and that's it. And we don't see ourselves that way.
Yeah, we do have two sides of the coins. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah,
it's a tough gamble, and especially when it's kind of I have to go off and sidetrack a little bit. But the whole when the DC sniper came out, everybody was like, wait a minute. It's a Black dude?
We didn't want to believe it. We were like, there is no way.
When they said he was Black, we was like, oh, man.
We had to clarify and said, no, he was Jamaican. He
wasn't regular. That's so stupid.
Yeah. We see each other, as a collective representing each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. So I'm curious for you, Melissa, because this is a point that I think is important to touch on, how we, as Black parents, we have to have those conversations with our young Black boys. And Chris, you mentioned about The same way you would have a conversation about the police, you would have a conversation about your young son about him in the workplace. Melissa, did you have to have those kind of conversations with your son when you sent him off to college? Like,
I definitely did have that conversation with Casey when he went off to college about the way he shows up in spaces. Casey's 6'3", right? And he's a Black man 365 days of the year. So I had conversations with him about, consent and, making sure like he's not in precarious situations with alcohol where it could ever be, his word against somebody else's. Making sure he keeps up with the right friends who are, going to put him in the right situations and do the right thing. Casey is an equal opportunity dater. I'll put it like that. So, we had that conversation too, because Casey doesn't really, he dates all races, just put it like that. So we had that conversation, and it was just a very real conversation. And then of course, all the mothers don't bring no grandbabies here. I don't want no grandbabies. But yeah, I mean, he was gonna be away, and college, it presents you're introduced to a lot of things. And you have to make good choices. So not getting involved in drugs and things that could lead to you ever being in a situation where, because I frankly told him, if it's ever her word against yours, you're probably gonna lose. Just because, so you have to make sure that you are doing the right things, because if you get in a situation like that, it's going to be very, very hard to prove your case, because you're already assumed that that you're guilty.
Isn't it just astounding that we have to have those kind of conversations on several layers of life, very specific kinds of conversations with our sons, our Black sons.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised. And it's just a historical thing, we've seen time and time again, and it's really about protection. It's unfortunate, but we have to think 5-10 times ahead. And we have to, it's always like we always have to go beyond, and sometimes you get tired. I get tired having to always just think about every little thing possible, where others don't. And when we go to other cultures, I'm actually really curious to see what this scenario is like in places like Africa, like in Ghana, and other places, other parts of the world, where maybe we are the more predominant culture. Is that something that's even? I'm very curious about that. That's something I have to ask some of my friends, overseas. But
or how much of this built into our culture is a part of the caste system, right? That has just been taught in the United States.
I think we're so heavily influenced by social media and media. I don't know if they have those kinds of influences.
Well, yeah,
but
I follow maybe all type of Ghanaian people on TikTok.
Yeah.
I love TikTok.
Yeah,
it's addictive.
It is.
So, go ahead.
I know we're getting really close to the 45-minute mark, so I wanted to make sure that we're cognizant of that, because we have a time limit. So just a reminder on the time. That's all.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I just think my whole thought process is just you got to have the conversation. It has to be made. Young people especially just have to be very careful about that, because alcohol and those things like that, it just changes your whole your mindset, your inhibitions, and those things. And sometimes your true self, or what you may be feeling or not, it just comes out. And so I would just say, just being very careful, being understanding of seeing past. It's a time and a place, and see and pass. Some things are just not good for your health, not good for your it's detrimental per se.
Yeah.
So sexy versus sexual. Yeah, I mean, good conversation. Now I know that y'all be huddling up dudes be huddling up.
We talk. We do talk.
No, I think,
and it's okay to be both.
Yeah.
It's okay to be both, but in the workplace, we do have to temper that.
And be professional. I would say,
we just got to come different. There's a flip side of that for women. Black men, obviously black men have to be extra cautious, but there's a flip side for us, even as Black women who come into the space and, with a certain aura. We have a lot of, layers of what challenges us in the workspaces. Just, we always have to go above and beyond, go the extra mile to prove ourselves. It's just a lot in that, but there is a flip side to that. I don't know one female friend of mine that has not been sexually harassed in some way at some point in her lifetime in the workspace.
Listen, I was on this project, and this VP he came to my location and wanted to talk to me about the work I'd done. And in front of my regional director and my director, he was giving me, accolades and that I'd done a wonderful, wonderful job. And he was so proud of me. And he grabbed me by my waist and kissed me on my cheek.
Mm.
And I was like, what do you do in that situation? And I kind of, because, I'm the HR manager. So I had my regional with me. And I'm like, you gonna say something? I'm gonna say something. Like, if I say something, is this gonna be career suicide? If I say it in this moment, I was too, honestly, I can admit I was a little afraid to say something in that moment. So after the fact, when I met with my regional later, I said to him that made me very uncomfortable. That was not appropriate. Right. And he said, "Why didn't you say something?" And I was like, "Why didn't you say something?" Because I don't want to get fired because he's the VP.
Right.
Yeah,
but it's intimidating. It could be it's that power. It's the power dynamic that we face.
Mm-hmm.
It's the having a male figure over us and they approach us in that way. So there's a lot of factors.
Not to mention, I'm the only person of color in this room.
Right.
Like many times over. Like at that time, I was the only person of color in my entire discipline in HR.
Oh,
the only one.
Yeah. So because our time is winding down, I have a devil's advocate question. Okay. So, we have to be careful when we enter into the workspace. This is for you. This is a question for Missy and Chris. We have to be careful when we come into the workspace, how we show up, the energy that we give off can be overly sexual, all that good stuff. But what if you do have a mutual attraction and you want to be careful in the workspace, but you still want to let this brother know, this sister know, okay, if you bite, I'll get caught. So Missy, what advice would you give ladies? And Christopher, what advice would you give men, if there is any advice to give, if there is truly a mutual attraction, but you have to be careful in the workspace? Because relationships have happened in the workplace, right?
Yeah, I've worked in locations where people have dated and gotten married. Yeah, so it can work out.
Yeah.
I subscribe to the philosophy that I don't date where I work ever.
Mm-hmm. My eyelash is doing the crazy thing. Go ahead.
That is a personal choice of mine because of my position, and because I don't want ever there to be a question about the decisions I make having any sort of influence or bias for or against anyone ever, right? So it's not something that I would ever do personally. Like ever.
Right. Yeah.
But I will say that if someone, you got to be very careful first about dating in the workplace. Many times companies have policies about dating in the workplace and personal relationships. Typically they will include language about, reporting structures and sometimes even departmental guidelines. So, you have to consider, if this goes great, what will happen? But if it goes left, what will happen? Right. True. And I would say that with any kind of decision you make, weigh the odds. And worst case scenario, if this goes completely left, how will this impact me both personally and professionally? And do you know this person well enough to where you can sort of keep that separate outside of the workplace? Because sometimes you see people who have relationships, and when they get into it, it's everybody work knows both, so they fighting, So it's it can work, but you have to really think that through, be very careful, and consider the long-term impact.
That's true. Definitely true. Spoken like a true HR professional.
But I ain't doing it. No.
What about you, Brother Chris?
I want to piggyback on Missy. I mean, I've been in a situation where someone that I didn't think, something like that would happen. It happened, and it was just really surprising, and it was awkward sometimes. You're at the workplace. Well, it's for us. It's like we play it off like it doesn't happen, or but we have to be careful. Like, it could happen where you're in a position where your judgment call gets called into place. She comes at you sideways, or whatever the case may be, and you're at work. So I would suggest, don't eat where don't shit where you sleep. Shit what you eat, right? You get what I'm saying with that? Yeah. So it's like it's out of protecting your own, values, protecting your peace. You want to come to work and feel like you could be comfortable. You could be like, not like you're at home, but you could feel like, it's not going to bring you stress.
Because it's not a volatile, hostile environment.
Right. You don't want to bring all the other stuff, because I'm telling you, that's exactly what can happen. I don't care how attractive she looks, based on how she coming at, she throwing you hints. Y'all in the parking lot, she like, let's go to happy hour. No, keep it. You able to keep it like, or if that's how you're trying to do it, you have to just straight up go to another location, different job, if you really want to make it work. But if you're not willing to make that kind of move, either of you, don't even entertain it, because it really won't work. It really won't work. I'm telling you. Some people, for some reason, it just have gone on for a while and maybe successful, but it doesn't work for everybody. I'm telling you that right now.
The odds are not in your favor.
It sure is. It sure is not.
It makes for an awkward situation, for sure.
Exactly.
My eyelash is just doing its own thing. I'm just gonna take it off. Yeah, on camera. Like, I might as well.
That was great. You're so funny. All right.
Oh, Brother Chris, thank you. Thank you for your perspective. Listen, Missy did all this bragging about you. She gave you a grand entrance. You gotta tell us what you are doing in the community. Where can we find you? What you got going on? Where are you on social medias? Tell us about your podcast, how we can look you up. Tell us all that good stuff. The floor is yours. You can end us.
I humbly appreciate you. Listen, it was a tremendous honor to be on the show with you all. I had fun because this was such a deep topic. I was picking with it at work, thinking about it, but I'm glad I was able to partake. But I'll leave you with this: is to really, having self-guidance, having understanding and respect yourself mentality. Respecting others and keeping, really your peace at work is the most important. You can find me directly at culturedunplugged.com. So
drop that in the chat.
www.culturedunplugged.com. It has access to all my socials. The only thing I think that's not directly connected on there is my cooking side of things. I do catering in the DMV area. You can find that through our Instagram at Covered Cultured Cooking. Kind of a tongue twister there, but Covered Cultured Cooking, where I'm doing cooking stuff. I'm showing how to do different things that I do in the kitchen. But outside of that, essentially, I'm someone. Hey, if you can connect with me, I do videos every week, and my audience in large part is usually young men in their 20s. And we talk about various topics regarding lifestyle strategies and how to be a gentleman. So when you come to my channel, that's important. So that's how you can find me.
That's cool.
Well, we got some other things, irons on the fire. So, maybe next time we could be a guest on your show.
I would love that. I have, a whole slew of lists of topics. You already know.
Yeah. Excited about that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Chris. We really appreciate you and your time and just giving your perspective. Please go check him out, culturedunplugged.com. Check him out on his social media platforms. And he cooks, ladies. That's important. A man that cooks, that's important. So check out his chef services. We're going to check you out, Chris. Brother Chris, it was so good having you. We thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Absolutely.
Our
pleasure. All right. Have a great evening. And I appreciate all the listeners too. Thank you for watching.
Yes. Go over to his Cultured Unplug and like him so you can keep tabs of when he's broadcasting.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right,
Brother Chris. So that was interesting. I mean, we could have dug into so many different, if we only do this for like an hour. Less than an hour. Right? It's so layered. It's so many things that we could have dove into. But I think the important message is that our Black men have to be careful in the workspaces. We as women got to be careful how we show up, the energy that we bring. You just got to be careful, be cautious, keep it professional.
Yeah.
We know it won't happen in all cases, but just be careful.
Right, because your reputation it precedes you. So you got to be very careful. Protect your name at all costs.
Yeah. So what do we have? We take a little break, but we'll be back in the new year. What do we have coming up?
Oh my gosh, we're going to talk about imposter syndrome,
superwoman syndrome. Yeah.
You and I were both working on some individual projects, right? You're launching your business. I've launched my business. We're doing business. We're doing big things. In 2022, talking about goals for the year.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say we got some stuff coming. Some stuff coming up. So we want you guys to stick with us. Yes, we will be back in the new year.
Yeah. As always, follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter at Nikki and Missy. That's our website address, NikkiandMissy.com. That's NikkiandMissie.com.
Yeah. Let us know what you thought about tonight's show. Let us know your thoughts, any comments. We don't have to end the conversation here. Sexy versus sexual, all that good stuff. Let us know. And we'll see you in 2022.
See you next year.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, cousins.
Hey, yo. Ladies coming to the scene with the knowledge that's it. Spitting nothing but the facts and it's about to be lit. See, let me hear you say, sit back and take a listen, cause they're teaching the course. They share a passion and a talent, a human resource. See, let me hear you say, empowering ladies with the voice, and it's about to be fire. Did I forget to mention that they're both from GI? Let me hear you say, let me hear you say,